Queen Camilla faltered in the courtroom, her hands trembling and voice breaking as she faced Diana's sister, Lady Sarah Spencer. The entire courtroom fell into a suffocating silence. No one dared to breathe, all eyes fixed on Camilla. In Sarah's hands was a letter, a secret letter that could change the history of the royal family forever. Not only was she the keeper of hidden truths, but she also brought to light the secrets long buried in the shadows. An overwhelming tension filled the room as whispered rumors finally became undeniable truth. The secrets the palace had denied for decades, affairs, betrayals, and manipulation were now fully exposed. Camilla, who once smiled through scandals, now stood confronted by the bloodline of Diana, the woman silenced for years, confirming what many had feared. The truth at last could no longer be hidden. Don't forget to comment 1 if you resonate with this story, or 0 if you see it differently. Share your thoughts with us, and make sure to like and subscribe to our channel so you won't miss what happens next. We're about to reveal every secret in this unfolding drama. As the entire world watched the proceedings unfold in the courtroom, the question of Camilla's fate became clearer than ever. Could this be the end of her reign? Would the royal family survive this reckoning? Or had Diana finally delivered her long-awaited justice after years of silence? The courtroom was thick with tension, unanswered questions echoing in the minds of everyone present as every eye was fixed on Camilla. What was unfolding was not just a trial, but a revolution. Sit back, sip your tea, take a deep breath, and stay with us, for what happens next will leave you speechless. The courtroom was in shock. All the witnesses were waiting, but no one could have prepared for what Lady Sarah Spencer would do next. She stood tall, a symbol of resolve and decisiveness. With the letter in hand, Sarah's voice rang out with determination as she spoke 7 words that made time seem to stand still. "My sister knows the truth about you." These words struck with the force of a blow to the heart of everyone in the courtroom. Sarah's statement not only eroded Camilla's image, but also sparked a battle that would never truly end. Those 7 simple words were a declaration of war, an undeniable affirmation that the truth about Diana, about the royal family, and about the things that had been hidden for so long had finally been exposed. And now it was Sarah, Diana's sister, who was leading the charge for justice, bringing those secrets into the open and refusing to let history continue to be rewritten the way those in power wanted. Queen Camilla froze, her hands trembling slightly, her eyes searching for safety in the empty room, but there was nothing. The silence became deafening heavy, as if time itself had come to a standstill. All eyes in the courtroom were fixed on Camilla, and she knew this was no longer a family matter. This was a historic moment, a door opening to secrets that many had long concealed through lies. Slowly, Sarah pulled a letter from her bag, the courtroom leaning in, and Diana's familiar handwriting seemed to dance on the page, revealing all the raw emotions hidden beneath. Diana's words were blunt and truthful, with no attempts at hiding or softening the impact. The sound of heavy breaths began to fill the room, everyone clutching their mouths, afraid to speak. A royal guard turned away, unable to face what was unfolding before them. The judge called for order, but what had transpired could not be undone. The truth was out, and the world had heard it. Camilla's lawyer rushed to object, but Sarah locked eyes with her, not allowing her any room to escape. "She trusted you," Sarah whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "And you broke that trust." Those words, though soft, carried a tremendous weight, an irrefutable confirmation that Camilla had betrayed and hurt the one person, Diana, who had trusted her so completely in her innocence. Camilla looked as if she had been slapped, her eyes wide and filled with tears, but not a single tear could change the letter in Sarah's hand or the powerful silence in her voice. She stood frozen, as if time itself had stopped in the face of the truth Diana had left behind. The camera zoomed in on her eyes, but it couldn't hide the panic in them. The letter in Sarah's hand was irrefutable evidence, a living proof of what had happened and what had been buried all these years. Camilla's tears could not erase the truth. On the contrary, Sarah's silence rang louder than any words could. The day of judgment may have only just begun, but the stillness in the courtroom spoke volumes. A letter, a voice from the past, and a courtroom that could not stop the storm it would unleash. Everyone in the room understood that this was not just a trial, but a historic moment where secrets were exposed and all the mysteries of the royal family would be unraveled. And Camilla, whether she liked it or not, would have to face the consequences of her actions. But exactly what had Diana written? Something in her words was so powerful that it silenced even a queen. Now the world's eyes were on that folded piece of paper, a message that could rewrite royal history forever. Sarah opened it, and Diana's words immediately shook the palace to its core. The words in the letter were not just mere handwriting. They carried an invisible power laden with the pain and anger Diana had endured for so many years. As Sarah began to read, each word felt like a ticking time bomb breaking apart the perfect facade the palace had built. Diana, though no longer here, had ignited a flame that could not be extinguished. The words in the letter echoed the voice of a woman who had been silenced for so long, now bursting forth as an undeniable truth. And everyone in the room, from the judge to the reporters, could feel that this was not just a letter. It was a declaration of war, an unveiling of a deep truth that no one could ignore. It was not just a letter, it was Diana's heart on paper. "They are slowly pushing me out," she wrote, not as a cry for help, but as a final warning. Though the words had been written long ago, now they surged into the courtroom like a storm, shattering the silence and flooding the room with a cold, harsh truth. Now, decades later, those words echoed through the courtroom like thunder ripping apart the protective layers the palace and the powerful had so carefully constructed. Sarah read each line of the letter, every word, a reminder of the story Diana had lived through her entire life. In the stillness of the past, Diana had spoken of the isolation and psychological manipulation she had suffered. "They made me feel like I was going crazy," Diana had written. These words were a raw revelation of the pain she had hidden for so long. And then the letter titled Gnomes, a name, not just a title, but a manifestation of shadows it clearly cast. Those shadows were Camilla, and her presence was unmistakable. These words, though only a part of the letter, held immense power capable of changing everything. The image of Camilla, which had always been concealed in darkness, was now exposed, no longer something that could be hidden. Diana was not only unveiling the truth about herself, but she was also confronting the shadows from the past, ones that could never be erased. The queen tried to resist. She stood up and declared, "That's not true." But the room did not move. No one nodded, no one clapped. Everyone just stared at what was unfolding. This was not about what Camilla said, but about what Diana had left behind in that letter. The soft paper carrying harsh truths heavier than 1,000 royal statements. The stillness enveloped the room, the only sound the breathing of those witnessing this historical moment. Outside, the press erupted with headlines screaming, "The shocking letter," analysts calling it the most condemnable royal evidence since the BBC interview. But more than just evidence, it was emotion, the things Diana had carried with her throughout her life now being set free. Diana had poured all her final fears into ink, and now that ink was not just lying still on the page, it was burning the walls of the palace, shattering the perfect facade the royal family had built. Each word in the letter was not merely a revelation, but a bomb that shook the powers that had reigned over the palace for so long. The truths Diana could not speak during her years of captivity within the royal image were now ignited, forcing not just Camilla but the entire monarchy to face the inevitable exposure. Could this be the moment everything begins to crumble? So who brought this letter into the light? Who had kept it for decades, waiting for the right moment to speak while others stayed silent? A woman unwavering, Diana's sister, who had been in the shadows for so many years, but now she stepped into the spotlight with the truth. The next chapter is not about the royal family, but about loyalty. Let us meet the woman behind the explosion in the courtroom, the woman Sarah Spencer, the sister, the woman who testified. Sarah Elizabeth Sarah Lavinia Spencer, born in 1955, never intended to become famous. While her sister Diana stepped into the royal spotlight and became a global icon, Sarah chose to live in the shadows. She was not someone who sought attention or fame, but rather someone who quietly stood behind supporting and protecting what was worth cherishing. Sarah remained in the background, never flaunting herself or rushing into the public eye. But what the world didn't know was that behind Diana's strength, behind every victory and step forward in her life, was Sarah's silence. She was the steadfast rock when the palace turned to ice, when everything around them could collapse. Sarah never sought recognition, but she was the one who kept Diana grounded when the royal storm hit. Her loyalty and support were never acknowledged, but it was because of her that Diana was able to rise and become the woman the whole world admired. Sarah had known about the royal world long before Diana did, and in fact, she had dated Prince Charles first. Although that relationship was short-lived, it gave her a clear view of what lay ahead for her sister. But when that romance ended, Sarah stepped aside, unwilling to let the complexities of royal life dictate her own. Many years later, when Charles found new love with Diana, it was Sarah who helped introduce them, creating a connection that would forever change the course of royal history. Sarah once joked, "I wouldn't marry him if he were the king." A playful, lighthearted remark, but also a reminder of the difference between herself and Charles. However, that joke would become a shadow that haunted her for decades. What seemed like a harmless comment at the time slowly became an indelible mark on Sarah's mind as she watched her sister enter a marriage she knew would be full of challenges. The shadow of the past of Sarah's relationship with Charles would always loom over Diana's decisions and choices, becoming an inseparable part of the royal story. When Diana stepped into the palace, Sarah was always close by. Never loud, never ostentatious, simply present a quiet but steadfast presence. Though she never sought attention, Sarah was the one who stood behind protecting and shielding Diana during her most difficult times. Diana trusted her, sharing secrets that no one else knew, things even the palace could not be aware of. Sarah helped Diana prepare for interviews, guided her through the brutal royal storms, and stood by her side during the moments of hardship that the world could only speculate on. In those crucial moments when Diana felt alone and abandoned, Sarah was always there, the only one she could trust. And now Sarah steps forward not for revenge, but for justice. She is not doing this for the crown, not for fame or power, but for the sister she loves and has lost. Diana, the sister whose voice had once been silenced, is now heard again thanks to Sarah's persistence and loyalty. When everything had seemed silent for so long, Sarah spoke up not just for justice for Diana, but to let the world know that there are truths that should never be buried even when the most powerful people try to silence them. "I am not here to destroy anyone, I am here to tell the truth," Sarah declared in court, her voice steady but filled with emotion. This was not a personal battle, but a fight for justice, for the truth that had been hidden for far too long. From being a confidant to a matchmaker, Sarah had been there long before Diana donned the crown, and the public's love was not just for Diana, but also for the sister they had never truly understood. Sarah, who had once walked alongside Prince Charles in 1977, became part of the royal story that few truly knew. Charles and Sarah were seen skiing in Switzerland, smiling at polo matches, and attending dinner parties with the elite, a picture-perfect image the public admired, one that seemed full of promise. But behind the smiles and glamorous parties, Sarah felt the cold steel of the royal expectations. Everything was calculated, every action had to conform to the strict rules of a world she never chose. Though she stood beside Charles in the public's most admired moments behind closed doors, Sarah knew well that she was merely a small part of a power game that she could not control. Those years, although unspoken, carried with them a quiet yearning, waiting for the moment when she could finally speak out. "I would not marry him if he were the King of England," she once famously said, a statement spoken softly but carrying tremendous weight. A bold sentence, especially when whispered into the ear of a reporter. Those simple 10 words ended her romance with Prince Charles, and at the same time they etched Sarah's name permanently into the royal ledger, becoming an inseparable part of the tragic love story of the royal family. These words were not just a rejection. They were a firm affirmation of the incompatibility between her and a system she felt she could not keep up with. However, that was not the end of her story with Charles. In a twist of fate, it was Sarah, the one who had once distanced herself from Charles, who ended up introducing her sister Diana to the prince she had once loved. She never imagined that one moment, one casual introduction would change everything. She could never have predicted that from a simple meeting would come a marriage that would stir so many storms, ultimately leading to changes in an entire dynasty. Diana was only 16 years old when she met Charles at a family gathering. Shy, warm, and charming Diana immediately caught his attention, and everything around them seemed to stop when they first locked eyes. Sarah, with a gaze full of sincerity and hope, encouraged their relationship, thinking it was just a harmless connection, something simple, not too complicated. "You two would make a lovely couple," she once said with a gentle smile. "It's just a normal thing, nothing too serious." Though these words were said innocently, they unintentionally set history on a new path one no one could have foreseen. A path that would end in both tragedy and legend, causing not only Diana but the entire royal family to face irreversible changes. Years later, when the love story between Diana and Charles had come to its end, Sarah admitted feeling guilty for having introduced them. The relationship she had created, though starting with good intentions, had turned into a storm that shattered not only Diana's heart, but also everything once believed to be steadfast in the royal world. She couldn't help but feel that she had led her sister down a path Diana, with all her youthful innocence, wasn't prepared for. We never thought she would stop during interviews. The emotion in her voice still resonates in the hearts of those who listened. Sarah, with a heart full of concern, led Diana into an unavoidable battle, into the lion's den where nothing would be as simple as she had imagined. Could that careless match, that accidental introduction, have been the first step into a heartbreaking fate Diana would have to endure? History may never answer this question clearly, but Sarah carried that question with her every day like a shadow she couldn't shake off. An introduction that seemed ordinary, a royal match no one could predict the consequences of, and the regret that followed became deeply embedded in Sarah's mind. As she watched the fairy tale unfold with all its glamour and its suffering, she couldn't help but ask herself, did I send her there? That was the question Sarah would carry with her for the rest of her life. A painful question about her decision, about her intervention in her sister's fate, a decision that could never be undone. But the story didn't end with a wedding. It only began. Diana stepped into the spotlight of the century, becoming not only a symbol of royalty, but also of a generation, while Sarah stood on the sidelines quietly observing this immense transformation. Let's take a step back to the beginning of Diana's royal journey, from a shattered childhood to a spectacular wedding that left the world in awe. The formation of Princess Diana before becoming the Princess Diana known to the world is the story of a young girl with a great sorrow. Her parents divorced when she was only 7 years old, an event that left a deep wound in her heart. The family estate in Sandringham, though beautiful, lacked the warmth a child needed. Diana's stepmother, Rain, was strict and cold, unable to replace the love Diana so desperately longed for. In a painful moment of her childhood, Diana was once pushed down the stairs by her stepmother, an act that exemplified the emotional distance and indifference she had to endure. These memories were etched deeply in Diana's mind, pains that were never fully soothed, and it was these experiences that shaped the strong yet deeply wounded woman she would later become, the woman who would rise as an icon of compassion and resilience. Diana grew up with a heart full of hope. She loved children, dancing, and fairy tales. At the age of 19, Diana was working at a kindergarten in London, leading a simple life full of dreams when Prince Charles began calling her. Her friends teased her, but Diana, with her pure heart and belief in magic, couldn't resist those invitations. She believed this could be her very own fairy tale, the one she had dreamed about since she was a little girl. Sarah, from behind the scenes, watched every step her sister took. Though fame began to loom over Diana, Sarah remained steadfast beside her, always supporting and believing in her strength. Sarah knew that despite the weight of the crown, Diana was strong enough to carry it. "You are stronger than you think," Sarah once told her, a gentle reminder filled with trust and belief. Then came the proposal and the transformation. From a young girl with naive belief in love, Diana stepped into royal life, facing all the demands and challenges she had never imagined. This transformation was not just an external change, but a profound shift within her soul as Diana began to confront the pressures and expectations that royal life imposed on her. Diana had become Shy Di, the girl with the squinting eyes and the huge engagement ring. Sarah was there to help with fittings, take photos, and experience all the emotional highs and lows. She helped Diana navigate royal protocols, from bowing to handling expectations. But even she couldn't fully see the immense weight of what Diana was about to face. Looking back, Sarah's support was genuine but perhaps overly hopeful. "I thought she could handle it," she had said. Then she added, "I thought things would be different." Looking back, Sarah's support was real, but perhaps too hopeful about her sister's ability to handle everything. "I thought she could handle it." Sarah had said a reminder that she trusted in Diana's strength. But then, after seeing her sister struggle with royal life, Sarah's view changed. "I thought things would be different," she said, with a deep understanding that Diana's life would never be what they imagined when they stood before the altar. Sarah's shift was not just disappointment, but a sobering shock to the harsh and relentless reality that royal life would impose on her sister. In the spotlight of the world, with no map, no armor, and no escape from the agony, Diana's rise was swift, but the wedding was not the end. It was the beginning of a silent battle where Diana stepped into a world where no one could predict the hardships that lay ahead. As her fairy tale unfolded, the world watched her every move, but in the shadows, a figure stood always near Camilla, hidden in plain sight, always just a step behind Diana, watching her every move like an unavoidable ghost. As Diana entered the church in her 25-foot-long dress, perfect like a dream, all eyes were on her. But perhaps she had no idea that she was walking into a trap, into a life she could never have imagined. Though the wedding between Diana and Charles shook the world behind the glamour, were plots, challenges, and a woman lurking in the shadows. She, the one no one spoke of, but was always there close by, and almost a part of the story Diana was about to face. Let's take a closer look at the wedding that shook the world and the truths behind it, about the woman who had always been present in the darkness, waiting for the moment to change everything. On July 29, 1981, the world stopped. Over 750 million people watched as Princess Diana Spencer entered St. Paul's Cathedral wrapped in a pristine white taffeta gown with a flowing train that seemed endless. The bells rang, cameras flashed non-stop, and from the outside it looked like a perfect royal fairy tale, the beginning of a dream that everyone wished for. The public couldn't take their eyes off Diana the princess in her magnificent dress, walking with grace and an unmistakable happiness. Sarah watched from the sidelines, smiling but silent. Despite the joy and excitement surrounding this moment inside, her anxiety couldn't be concealed. Her sister had stepped into history, into royalty, and into the hearts of millions. But quietly, Sarah must have wondered, is Diana ready? Can anyone truly be ready for such pressure, such scrutiny, and such isolation? Even as she saw Diana in this glorious moment, Sarah couldn't help but feel that it was just a small part of the complicated life her sister was about to face, with challenges that no one could predict. Behind the glamour of the wedding, Camilla Parker was present even though she wasn't officially invited. While her name wasn't on the guest list in whispered glances and private conversations, her presence could not be hidden. Camilla and Charles had a long history, a relationship the public knew nothing about. Diana, in her pain, had once said that she saw Camilla's initials on a bracelet that Charles had made for her. "There are 3 of us in this marriage." That statement was a poignant declaration, confirming what Diana knew but could not change. Later, Diana confessed, even at the altar where she and Charles exchanged vows, that the shadows had already appeared quietly but unmistakably. The vows were made the royal couple's kiss, broadcasted worldwide, leading people to believe they were witnessing a perfect love story. However, beneath that romantic veil, something had cracked the narrative of love that the world trusted. Everything wasn't as it had been painted, and the truth, little by little, began to surface. It was not the royal tale that everyone had imagined, but a complex, painful reality filled with shadows that Diana could not avoid. What do you think about the truth behind those royal vows and the romantic facade? Share your thoughts and feelings about this complex and painful story in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss our upcoming videos uncovering more untold secrets. Sarah knew. She had seen it from the very first day. When Diana stepped into royal life, Sarah was not only concerned about her sister's happiness, but also her survival in a harsh system where neglect and expectations had not only cracked the crown, but also Diana's heart. This system was not a place for sensitive souls, and Sarah noticed the change as soon as Diana and Charles's relationship began. The love that had glittered for the world to see shortly after the wedding gradually turned into deeper cracks in Diana's life. Not long after the wedding, everything began to change. Diana, once radiant and full of joy, now became quieter, thinner, and more withdrawn. She felt Charles pulling away, no longer caring for her as he once had. And always lurking in the shadows was a name Camilla. A ghost Diana could never escape no matter how hard she tried. Diana had once told Sarah in a tear-filled moment, "He loves her, not me." That confession was painful and full of hurt, like an undeniable end. Sarah, despite trying to comfort her sister with simple words like, "You are his wife," knew deep down that Camilla had never truly left and would always be the shadow haunting Diana for the rest of her life. In 1989, it became undeniable. Camilla Gate changed everything. A private tape of Charles and Camilla surfaced, exposing long-hidden secrets to the light. Inappropriate conversations, unguarded words sent shockwaves through public opinion. The world heard Charles in a crude moment joking about wanting to live inside Camilla's pants. It was shameful, humiliating, as those words not only shattered trust in a marriage, but also damaged the image of the entire royal family. It marked the end of the royal fairy tale the public had once admired. In 1994, Charles finally admitted it on national television when he had no choice but to confess his betrayal. In a televised interview, he acknowledged that he had been unfaithful throughout his marriage to Diana, confirming what the public had long suspected. This admission wasn't just a personal confession, but the final shock for Diana, who had borne this pain in silence for years. The truth was out, but it left a deep wound that could never be healed. The following year, in Diana's famous interview, she bluntly stated, "There are 3 of us in this marriage, so it's a bit crowded." This statement wasn't just a painful confession, but also a devastating blow to the royal image that the public had long admired. Diana skillfully yet truthfully shattered the perfect facade that the royal family had built. That line wasn't only a confession of betrayal, but also opened a door to expose the secrets behind royal life. The world immediately took notice, and Diana's words cut deeper than any headline. It was the moment that forced everyone who had believed in the royal fairy tale to confront the cold, hard truth. However, while the public saw Diana fighting alone, facing criticism and loneliness, there was always someone behind the scenes silently supporting and assisting her. Sarah, the sister who had always stood by Diana, was the one who helped her manage the chaos of the palace. Sarah refused to claim ownership of the scandal that had tarnished the crown's perfect image, and although she never appeared in the public eye, she was the one who supported Diana during her most difficult times. Sarah never sought the spotlight, but her silence represented a powerful strength, a wise strategy to protect her sister from the endless storms that swept through royal life. Sarah was not just a sister. She was a strategist, the one who helped Diana navigate challenges that only they truly understood. When Diana needed strength, Sarah provided it. When Diana wanted to speak out, Sarah helped her find the right words. Sarah stood firm in the face of every storm, always steady and resolute. But was she merely a sister? Or was she the mastermind behind Diana's silent rebellion? Was Sarah the one who helped Diana maintain her strength, quietly guiding every step her sister took as she faced unimaginable challenges? What Sarah did was never exposed, but her strength and support were the key factors that allowed Diana to survive and fight in such a dangerous and complicated world. Most people saw Diana as graceful, yet emotionally rich. She was always the picture of femininity, delicate and full of charm, easily winning the hearts of the public. However, what few knew was the plan behind Diana's bold moves, and much of that came from Sarah. Unlike Diana, Sarah never sought the spotlight or the attention of the press. She didn't pose for cameras or attend public events. Instead, she quietly stood behind, silently supporting her sister through difficulties that only they truly understood. It was Sarah who helped Diana survive in the complex and challenging royal world. Sarah was not only a sister but also a savvy strategist. She counseled Diana through the chaos of Camilla Gate when secrets about Charles and Camilla's relationship started to surface. She helped Diana manage the story, protect the charities she was involved with, and maintain Diana's public image. Not only that, but Sarah also connected Diana with the right people, from lawyers to media advisors, to ensure her sister was always well prepared to face the media storms and pressures from the royal family. Diana no longer just reacted. She started acting with purpose, no longer swept along by events without a plan. With Sarah's support, Diana became a stronger woman, capable of standing firm and fighting for herself. While the world looked at Diana's outward actions, Sarah worked tirelessly behind closed doors, ensuring that her sister was always protected and never had to face the storms alone. One of the biggest moments in Diana's life took place before her 1995 BBC interview. Diana was nervous, full of doubt and fear about the backlash she might face when revealing her truth. She knew that her words could change everything, not just her personal image, but also her position within the royal family. But Sarah, with her patience and deep understanding of her sister, encouraged Diana. "Tell your story your way, no one else will do it." These words were not just encouragement. They were a powerful reminder that this was Diana's chance to speak out, to tell the truth she had been keeping hidden for far too long. As a result, the interview became one of the most shocking in royal history, where Diana exposed the pain and betrayal she had endured. Sarah, who always stood by Diana, helped her prepare for this interview. She didn't just help Diana refine her words, but also prepared her mentally for what would come afterward. Sarah knew that after the interview, Diana would face severe criticism from both the public and the royal family. But no matter what, Sarah was there, steadfast and ready to protect her sister. When it came time to divorce Charles, Sarah was once again by Diana's side, helping her navigate the royal terms fight for the rights of her children and retain her titles. Diana may have given up the crown, but she did so with dignity and resilience that no one could deny. And much of that quiet strength came from Sarah, her sister, who was always the strategist and the shield that protected Diana through every challenge. Not only royal battles, Diana had a mission. She wanted to make a difference. She stepped out of the palace and into the world, helping those no one else dared to touch. Behind the scenes, Sarah supported every step she took. Let's follow the princess as she transformed from a royal wife to the queen of her global crusade. When Diana left the palace, she didn't retreat. She rose instead of sinking into silence. She used her voice to shine in places no royal had ever been before, and right by her side, still hidden in the shadows, was Sarah, who anchored her emotions and served as her personal advisor. Diana's work with AIDS patients truly broke down the barriers that society had built at the time. While most people were fearful and avoided contact, Diana had no hesitation in shaking hands with those afflicted, showing empathy and courage that few dared to express. "I want them to feel like they are human," she said, and it was these actions that changed the way society viewed the disease. Sarah, with her tact and strategy, quietly connected Diana with the appropriate charitable organizations, arranged visits, and most importantly ensured that the press captured Diana's kindness without turning those moments into a circus, as the media often did with attention-grabbing stories. Later, when Diana decided to go to Angola, she wasn't just a famous woman, but a symbol of courage. Diana walked through an active minefield, risking her life just to draw the world's attention to a forgotten crisis. Her actions sparked a global wave of attention not only to the issue of landmines in Angola, but also to her bravery and compassion. Throughout the trip, Sarah helped with all the logistics, ensuring her sister's safety, while maintaining the necessary privacy for Diana to carry out her work as effectively as possible. Although Diana was the one in front of the cameras receiving all the attention, no one could forget the crucial role Sarah played, always quietly supporting behind the scenes, enabling Diana to continue her humanitarian mission. Diana's courage went far beyond the photo shoots or the glamorous moments the public often saw. Her actions were not just symbols of compassion, but raw and risky moments that transcended the limits of fear. Diana had no hesitation in hugging patients with leprosy, visiting cancer wards, and confronting the pain that many others were too afraid to face. She traveled from Bosnia to South Africa, from African hospitals to far-flung places around the world, seeking out those in need of help. Each time she appeared in hospitals, Diana was not just a princess. She was a symbol of compassion, a woman on a mission to aid those suffering. And each time, Sarah silently stood behind, helping plan and supporting her sister's mission from behind the scenes. She never sought the spotlight, but Sarah's work, though unnoticed, was the key element that allowed Diana to maintain her strength throughout this journey. Sarah was the one who connected Diana with organizations, organized the visits, and made sure her sister was always protected during her actions. Diana was no longer just a princess, a model of grace and power. She became a global force and inspiration not only to the royal family but to the world. And while cameras captured Diana's every action, from holding hands with patients to taking perilous trips, it was Sarah who kept her steady behind the lens. Behind every brave action of Diana was the unwavering and silent support of her sister. Sarah was not just the protector of her sister, but also the one who helped Diana stay focused and patient throughout her mission to change the world. In the final days of the summer of 1997, Diana was radiant once again. Not because of palace life, but because of love, a love she had found after years of hurt and loneliness. She had found peace with Dodi Fayed, the billionaire film producer and son of the owner of Harrods. Together they cruised the Mediterranean, smiling for the cameras and appearing truly free, as if Diana had found a moment of serenity in her turbulent life. For the first time, Diana seemed truly happy. Happiness no longer a facade for the public, but a personal freedom in moments where she felt loved and cherished. In an emotional moment, Diana called Sarah that summer. "He makes me feel safe," Diana said, opening up about a relationship in which she found comfort and protection. Sarah, though cautious, could sense the difference. She had seen her sister hurt before, but this time Sarah's feeling was different. This time, Diana was no longer seeking a fleeting love. She had found a safe haven, a place where she could breathe and live a truly fulfilling life. Diana had escaped the confines of the institution, and now she wanted a real life, no longer burdened by the pressures of royal life or the obligations of the crown. For the first time in many years, Diana had found the freedom and happiness she had always longed for. Rumors about the marriage spread, the press worked tirelessly, and photographers followed them at every turn. Then came Paris on August 31st, a night that shattered the world. A black Mercedes sped away from the paparazzi, a tunnel, an accident, and silence. Diana was gone. Sarah flew to Paris with Prince Charles to bring her sister's body home. The strongest woman in Diana's life was now the one who had to say goodbye. At the funeral, Sarah stood close to the coffin, fighting back tears. She read a tribute that made the entire country mourn. She didn't speak to the cameras that day, but her sorrowful, proud, and silent face spoke volumes. Diana was gone, but the questions they had were only just beginning. But behind the black curtain and the royal statements, something wasn't right. Too many details, too many contradictions, and too much silence from those who should have spoken up. Sarah may have remained silent in public, but privately, she never stopped asking what really happened that night. Let's step into the shadows of one of the biggest unsolved mysteries in modern royal history, the mystery surrounding Diana's death. Why was the driver drunk? Henri Paul had a blood alcohol level 3 times the legal limit, yet he was entrusted with Diana's life. Why was there no proper security backup? Why was the tunnel not blocked after such a high-speed crash? And why did the sole surviving bodyguard Trevor Rees-Jones lose his memory of the crash? Sarah has never accused anyone, but she hinted at things like, "There are questions we're never meant to ask." These questions are not just unanswered, but are deeply hidden secrets within Diana's death, things that perhaps will never be allowed to be brought to light. Rumors about MI6 involvement, strange surveillance records, and delayed medical responses only made the storm of truth even more intense. The suspicions grew stronger when even the French authorities couldn't explain why it took more than an hour to get Diana to the hospital, despite her being just minutes away. In her final days, Diana spoke of the fear she felt before they began their plans. A woman with great intuition, Diana wrote about that unease in her own handwriting as if it were a premonition. Was it just a feeling or something darker, a preparation for the inevitable? Those words weren't just a warning. They could have been a sign, a caution that Diana was trying to raise to alert the world. But in the end, did Diana see something that we still don't fully understand? Sarah, the keeper of that truth, remained silent but present, watching, remembering, waiting. Was it an accident or something more? The royal family has never provided a real answer, and perhaps they never will. But Sarah's silence speaks louder than words, and for those still seeking justice, her presence is a constant reminder that not everything has been said. A truth buried, another truth exposed as the public seeks justice. Camilla fought to maintain her royal role, but the court has changed everything. Sarah's revelations, Diana's letter, and years of silence have turned into a calculated storm. Now all eyes are on Queen Camilla. Will she survive this catastrophe, or is the crown now too heavy to bear the collapse of an image that had just begun? The courtroom did what decades of the media could not. It shattered Camilla's mask. The woman who rose from royal mistress to queen was now exposed. The fall headlines were brutal. Camilla crumbled. The ghost of Diana returned. The queen's image, carefully crafted over years, was wiped out in an afternoon. Camilla had fought for acceptance. Public apologies, charity appearances, carefully orchestrated interviews. It almost succeeded, but now Diana's words, Sarah's testimony, and the raw emotion of the public had rewritten the story. And this time, no public relations machine could fix it. Inside the courtroom, Camilla broke down, trembling. For the first time, she revealed her emotions in public, saying, "I didn't mean to do this." But the judge, the media, and the world no longer cared about the meaning. Those words seemed irrelevant now because everyone was focused on the truth. And the ghost of Diana, a ghost that had haunted Camilla and the royal family for years, was now more powerful than ever. Diana, though no longer present, occupied every space, every conversation, becoming the unavoidable factor in every development of this story. The palace aides were in chaos, confused by the uncontrollable upheaval. Will she resign? Was the question everyone was asking. Could Charles survive politically after everything that had happened? The monarchy, once a fortress, now seemed to be collapsing, held together by threads of denial, growing weaker and more fragile every day. Camilla's reputation, once guarded at all costs, had now completely crumbled. No amount of apologies or justifications could salvage her image. And Sarah, who had witnessed everything, did not celebrate. She simply stood in silence, watching everything around her collapse. She wasn't seeking revenge or recognition, but Sarah's silence was her way of showing empathy and respect for her sister, who had endured so much over the years. There were no overwhelming words or noisy celebrations, only silence, steadfastness, and the understanding that while nothing could be reversed, justice had finally spoken. Sarah's mission was never about revenge, only justice. A tarnished crown, a defeated queen, and a woman who stood her ground. Lady Sarah Spencer never sought attention, never craved fame, but now she is the voice of a generation that has seen the truth behind the crown. What will she do next? Can she turn this storm into something lasting? Let us close this chapter with the legacy Sarah carries and the redemption that may rewrite history one last time. A legacy and redemption she never sought. The cameras have never captured every interview, but Sarah Spencer's mission has never been about noise or attention. Her silence was not avoidance, but a means to protect the truth, to uphold what Diana left behind. In the years after Diana's death, Sarah continued her sister's work quietly. Behind closed doors, she not only continued what Diana had done, but also carried on her spirit and mission. Sarah supported the charities Diana had given her heart to, served on boards, made donations, and guided young people to pursue Diana's goals. Everything she did was done without fanfare, simply acting from the heart to continue the legacy Diana had built. Then came the trial, and for the first time Sarah spoke publicly. In an emotionally charged moment, her voice did not tremble. The message she conveyed was clear and powerful. Diana matters, her truth matters, and I will not let her be forgotten. These words, filled with determination and loyalty, stirred deep emotions in the crowd outside the courtroom, and a strong wave of public support erupted. Sarah was not just a sister. She had become a silent hero, a royal figure without a crown, but with an inner strength far greater than anyone realized. The monarchy may never officially recognize Sarah, but the public has flocked to social media calling her the woman who spoke the truth. Although not officially acknowledged, Sarah has become a symbol of honesty and resilience. She doesn't need statues or titles because she possesses something much more powerful: integrity, memory, and the love of a sister. A love that even death cannot silence. As she whispered near Diana's grave, I kept my promise. That was the vow Sarah held throughout the years, and even though Diana is no longer here, she continues to fight to ensure her sister is not forgotten. The crown may try to carry on, but thanks to Sarah, the world will never forget. In the moment of breaking the silence when Queen Camilla faced the ghost of Diana, and the woman who had passed Sarah Spencer made the entire monarchy confront the truth. Without a crown to hold power, her words shook the very foundation of the kingdom. Her truth, buried for decades under denial, is now exposed, and it cannot be hidden anymore. Sarah's love for her sister is unshakable, and through all the pain and trials, she has always been the one standing firm, protecting Diana with all her loyalty. Camilla may have won the title, but after that trial, public trust in the royal family was completely changed. The once glamorous, perfect image has now shattered while Princess Diana's legacy continues to live on in the hearts of fans, thanks to Sarah, who has kept alive the flame of truth and love that Diana left behind. The trial was not just a simple lawsuit, but a journey uncovering a story that has never truly ended, where the truth was finally revealed. Don't forget to leave a comment with 1 if you sympathize with Camilla, or 0 if you have a different opinion. Share your thoughts with us. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Click on the next video appearing on your screen to discover more amazing content. See you in the next videos.